The US currently boasts the largest economy in the world, but in a lot of cases, it's not the fastest growing. In fact, according to the World Bank and Invesco, some emerging markets in South America, Africa, and Asia are experiencing double-digit GDP growth by comparison. This kind of potential makes emerging markets attractive to investors. As companies or countries are able to ride this kind of wave of prosperity, there's a chance to capitalize on rapid growth. At the same time, there's a lot of volatility in currency fluctuation, tax implications, political change, you name it. The risks can be mitigated, and you should consult an advisor before making any decisions on your own. In this series, what we want to talk about has less to do with rate of return and more to do with opportunity for redemptive impact. My name's Christeen Rico. I was born in the Philippines, migrated to the San Francisco Bay Area at age 3, completed my degrees at New York University, and I've spent my entire career in the Silicon Valley tech industry, launching digital and physical experiences in new markets, most recently with Apple. That was until I decided to leave the world of big tech to invest in emerging ecosystems, specifically my place of birth, the Philippines. In 2021, I launched Dream Bigger Ventures, a capacity builder and angel network for very early stage redemptive businesses founded by Filipino founders. And in 2022, I joined Archangel Impact Capital, the Philippines' first faith-driven, multi-sector, multi-stage venture capital and private equity fund. As faith-driven investors, we have the opportunity to shape the culture and the way business can be done in parts of the world where the markets are growing rapidly through innovation. The compounding impact of that can literally shape companies, cities, markets, and entire nations for generations to come. And we believe it starts by humbly recognizing that we're knocking on the door of a once-in-a-lifetime change. At this very moment, we have the opportunity to reset our relationship with money and in turn, our definition of risk. The financial resources entrusted to us by God are not ours alone. It's all His. And every investment we make has an impact. So we should begin by asking God how He wants us to use capital to further His mission, not ours. We think this heart posture leads us to invest as though it's all God's. That might translate into us looking at some investments on any one of 3 return profiles. For some, we might be looking for a market rate return, places where we can see both great financial and spiritual impact. Other areas we might need to be a little more patient or concessionary in our financial return in order to pursue a greater kingdom impact. And there's other ways God might call us to act through giving. Those opportunities where we might be seeding the foundation of an ecosystem that will result in generations of work to come. My co-host for this series will be Henry Kaestner, co-founder of Sovereigns Capital. He'll be joining us from different locations around the world, talking with investors and helping us discover what it looks like to invest in emerging markets with a kingdom mindset. Before we act, we need to recalibrate our view of risk. Contrary to what we might think, this has less to do with our investing style or tolerance. If we look further upstream, we might find out it has everything to do with our trust in God and view of eternity. Henry has much to say about how we need to think differently about risk, and we'll hear from him next. Then, we'll watch the powerful story of an entrepreneur who returned to his home country and took a big personal risk. As a result, he was an instrumental part of rebuilding his broken and war-torn nation through business. Let's watch.
I love meeting, talking to, and connecting with other like-minded investors. Part of that involves attending and speaking at various conferences where faith-driven investors and faith-driven entrepreneurs are gathering all around the world. There is, however, a downside to Christian conferences, and that is the fact that we're all Christians. Not that being a Christian is a bad thing, it's just that sometimes when Christians gather, we all nod our heads at the same thing. We comment on subjects about which we all share the same opinions, and we leave never having been challenged at all. This is not true of all Christian conferences, but of course it does happen. I attended a conference where someone presented on inflation. After about an hour of hearing fellow Christian investors talk about the different ways to hedge against inflation, whether through precious metals or cryptocurrencies or other ideas, I realized that we were all nodding along to something that I actually deeply questioned. So I raised my hand and asked, where is the spiritual integration in buying gold bullion? No one answered, which I interpreted as encouragement to continue, so I elaborated by wondering aloud why a group of Christian investors should worry about hedging against inflation when we should really be hedging against Judgment Day. It's my belief, I explained, that the body of Christ simply must come to understand that our investment capital can, and oftentimes should, be placed in different investment vehicles, and it should be placed in different investment markets where there's a chance for real spiritual growth and kingdom advancement. If we all believe that we're going to one day give an accounting to God for the way that we spent our lives on earth, it's hard to imagine that God is going to ask us what we did to hedge against inflation, especially when we know for a fact that He's going to ask us how we loved and served the people He brought into our lives. He's going to want to know what we did for the least of these. He's going to want to know what we did with the talents that He gave us. After that, there's a lively debate and discussion. What I took away from that experience has nothing to do with any opinion anyone expressed, my own included. What I learned is that a room full of Christian investors can look a lot like a room of unbelieving investors. Both groups want their assets to stay safe and secure. Both groups want to hedge against certain unknowns. The difference is, or at least should be, that Christian investors have a different understanding of the unknown. Or to put it another way, Christian investors have a relationship with someone to whom nothing is unknown. Shouldn't that change the way we live? Keep in mind, this isn't something I'm observing out there. This is happening to me. If I look at my life, much of what I do regarding my investments amounts to a hedge. Yes, I believe and I trust in God, but just in case. The question I've had to ask myself is that if I truly believe all that God promises in the Bible, would I act the same way I do, think the same way I do, invest the same way I do? The concept of hedging in my own life has all too often looked as if it's a hedge against God's promises not being true, just in case He fails to clothe the lilies of the field, just in case He doesn't actually have a plan to prosper me. This is a dangerous trap. Rather than renewing our minds, we're falling right into the trap of the worries of the world and the deceitfulness of riches. If we remember the parable of the sower, this is the last obstacle that prevented the 30, 60, and 100-fold return. There's a sense that we trust God. Of course we do. If we say we're Christians, then we say we trust God. But too often our actions reveal that what we really trust is our bank accounts. If we spend the majority of our time and focus on building up resources for our enjoyment and safety, what does that tell us about whether we're serving God or mammon? When we spend all our energy and efforts hedging against risk, hedging against inflation, hedging against this, hedging against that, our entire life becomes a hedge. There's the possibility that the faith we declare might only be a ticket to the afterlife. If we doubt the promises of God so severely that we place all our trust in our own ability to manage risk, then it's possible we may not believe in what God has actually promised us. This sounds accusatory, I know that. Frankly, what I'm saying here causes me just as much discomfort as you may be feeling right now. What I want to do is to encourage both of us to spend time on our knees, asking God to search our hearts and show us where and how our investments might better serve Him. To do anything else would be too risky. This isn't to scare you into taking risks for God. This is an invitation to share in the full experience of knowing and loving our Savior, Creator God. When we avoid risk, we often end up avoiding what God is doing in the world. Whether in investing or in giving, I don't want to encourage you to recklessly throw money at projects and hope that something good comes out of it. There's still wisdom and discernment required in all things. Keep in mind that the very process of endeavoring to step out to make investments with wisdom brings us into a relationship with others who are trying to accomplish the same mission. This is the community of God calling us forward. And there's a process of seeking out counsel from advisors and peers, both home and abroad, that keeps God at the forefront. Finding other Christ followers who are seeking to make wise investments broadens our understanding of what God is doing and allows us to participate in His work. Yes, that can be messy. Yes, it can be time-consuming, but it's so much richer. I hope to invite you to see that God may have more in mind than just helping you hedge against inflation and save for retirement. We have to ask ourselves, do we really believe that? We have to ask ourselves, do we really believe that? Do we believe that God is working in and through the faithful investments of His people? Do we really believe that He will take care of us? Do we really believe that He's in complete control over all the money and markets in the world? Do we really believe that every investment has an impact? Those are risky questions to ask because they may themselves require you to take some risks. But the riskiest thing we can do is to play it safe. Pray and seek the will of God and open up your head, heart, and mind to the fact that He may have something incredible in store for you if you're willing to take the risk.
We had to go through different barriers. And then the militias was saying, no, your wife is a Tutsi. Then we say, no, she's not a Rwandan, she's a Burundian, a lady looking like you, we have to kill you. And then she was giving me my baby, saying goodbye. I was thinking this last time I will see her. Then I was taking the baby, going out and start negotiating with them. I was giving money and then I said, okay, take your baby and your wife. We are sure that the next barrier she will not survive.
We're talking about what could easily be 1 million people, and we're talking about 4 months.
It only took 100 days between April and July 1994 for an estimated 800,000 persons to be killed.
The chain of atrocities that began when the aircraft carrying the then President Juvenal Habyarimana was shot down. He led a Hutu government. The Tutsi people were blamed for his death, and this was the catalyst that pushed Rwanda towards genocide.
When the plane got shot down, everything changed quickly. Then they started killing. We heard shooting in the night. They throw grenades to my house, thinking that because I was working upcountry, I was colliding with the enemy. So they were convinced that I had infiltrators in my house. I was trying to find out how to have an authorization, because during those days, to pass through the different roadblocks, you have to have a pass. The pass was delivered by the city of Kigali, and you have to go there. The same day, they had killed people from the church Sainte Famille, and they brought them on that particular road. They were a body without head. And after like 200 meters I was walking, I threw up because it was too much for me. And then I looked up to the sky again. I said, God, I was convinced that you are the Almighty. Why people have been killed? Why this? I couldn't understand how God can accept what I've seen.
A flood of refugees. Every day, thousands upon thousands of people fleeing the war-torn capital of Kigali arrive here in Ruhangu, trying to escape the war.
And then when we went to the Belgian embassy, we couldn't get the visa to go there. At the same time, we were seeing other people coming from the former government, getting visa easily and then go. And so I decided, okay, if it is the case, my only solution is to come back to Rwanda and then be part of the people to rebuild the country.
It was a very exciting idea to come back home and join the others in reconstructing the country after the unfortunate events of 1994. We had a lot of faith in the new government after the RPF intervened and stopped the genocide. So we believed, and we still do believe, that the atmosphere here for both political, economic and social development is, the possibilities are enormous.
I made a public announcement over the radio that Manumetal has reopened the doors. Former employees, please come back. Out of 54 employees at the time, only 7 came back. The second step I did, I had a chance to have Save the Children Fund, renting part of the premises. And then with that money, that will help us to pay employees in the beginning and then buy the raw material we need. So that's how we really reopened the shop.
Byari bigoye cyane. Abantu ntibumvikanaga, nta mutima mwiza bagiraga kubera ibyo bari barahuye nabyo muri genocide. Abari hanze nabo baje ari impunzi mu by'ukuri bahungutse, abo abagarutse bahungutse bafite ibibazo by'ubukene nabo rero n'abaje baturutse hirya no hino nta kintu babaga bazanye ku buryo Manumetal yakoraga effort ishyiraho caisse d'entraide ya mituelle y'abakozi tukajya dushyiramo amafaranga make make à la fin du mois ariko tukagira nayo tugenda tugurizanya mu bakozi noneho na Manumetal ubwayo nka company igira iyindi caisse yo kujya iguriza abakozi cyane cyane kugira ngo bashake nka logement.
The trust that I am someone who can deal in uncertainty and then make money. I would like also to add that now the environment, 96, 97, was completely changing into Rwanda rehabilitation phase. We had a lot of orders. And then he was surprised to see how I could manage it. That's how I think that triggered the decision to say, now come in as a shareholder, and then I want to offer to grow with me. I truly believe that God brought me to Manumetal to lead by example. Today, I truly believe that I'm a steward and that Manumetal will grow, because what we do here is not just producing tables or chairs, is offering comfort by offering quality furniture in wood and metallic.
Manumetal quality has a name. So for us, quality is very important. And for us, quality is not just about the durability of a table. We want to also design something that's going to be functional. We also want to sell products that says, hey, this product is very good for your health. We develop a desk that you can lift and then you can work standing because it's good for your health. So all these are some things that we put all together to form that name quality for us.
Je suis un fonctionnaire de l'État. J'ai travaillé dans un ministère, le ministère de l'Éducation, et qui a des écoles, qui a des labos, qui a beaucoup du matériel, qui ont été fabriqués et qui ont été commandés dans Manumetal. Je suis très content de leurs produits, leurs services.
I couldn't even thought 1 second back after the genocide that Rwanda can become what we are seeing today. For me, it's a miracle, honestly speaking.
Seeing my country getting developed, it's not more just about general papers and something. I see buildings that are being built. I see amazing designs that are being done all over the country, and me being a part of that is very important to me, because I feel like you can develop something, you can design something, and making it come to life is very fulfilling for me.
I'm being grateful to be part of a company that is really in the heart of the rehabilitation of this country. You need a bed, you need a chair, you need a table to work on. If you are a student, we touch almost on every part of the life of a citizen. And to do something of quality, it's to commit that we participate in a better life, a better lifestyle, a better comfort. And that is really our motto.
I hope this redefinition of risk frees you up to consider how strategically allocated capital can help shape and rebuild companies, cities, and nations. It's a story that we see in the present day, and in our next session, we'll learn how the power of money has actually influenced God's redemptive story for millennia. As we press into this series, a couple of things to consider. Emerging markets are difficult, and direct deals with entrepreneurs are the most difficult and complex. God is on the move in a group of fund managers around the world that are doing some incredible work. As you feel called to participate, you might consider looking at funds as a way to take a better first step in getting involved, especially when looking at emerging markets. This can be important in helping navigate the different taxes and risks. On the Faith Driven Investor website, you can find a list of some fund managers who operate in this space. Be sure to consult your advisor as you explore if this is the best fit for you. It's also worth noting friends like TrustBridge, Impact, and National Christian Foundation. These firms can also help when it comes to allocating capital if you'd like to use donor-advised funds. Now, spend some time in your group talking about this session and how it relates to the journey you're on. Open yourselves up to learning from one another. Be honest with each other. What you get out of this time together will only be as enriching and life-giving as what you put into it. See you next time.
Faith Driven Investor is a discipleship ministry from Faith Driven Movements, a nonprofit corporation whose mission is to inspire and mobilize people to use their time, talent, and resources to impact the world around them. The materials are for informational purposes only. All investing carries risk, so be sure to consult an advisor before making any investment decisions. Hosts and guests may maintain positions in the companies and securities discussed. For all other questions, please visit faithdriveninvestor.org.